The International Monetary Fund has confirmed that Greece has failed to make a €1.5 billion debt repayment. And the forecast for today is gloomy, with predictions that the country will now default after an extension to the most recent bailout was rejected yesterday.
The fact of the matter is that in default, or will be in default tomorrow morning on the IMF, and also, I believe, on a loan to their own central bank.
Our Europe correspondent Peter Oliver has the latest developments.
What the International Monetary Fund and others are saying is that Greece is in arrears to the IMF right now. It failed to make its payment. That was confirmed by IMF chiefs outside of their Washington, D.C. headquarters. However, they did say that the IMF had received a request from the Greek side to get an extension on this particular payment. Now, the IMF said that their board are considering this and would get back in what they called due course. But these are dark days for Greece, and particularly dark days for European finances. At midnight, on midnight Brussels time, not only did Greece miss the IMF payment time, it saw its bailout, its last bailout, expire from its main creditors of the IMF, the ECB, the European Central Bank, and the European Union, meaning Greece, whilst being in trouble financially with the IMF, also doesn't have the safety net of any bailout cash. Now, we are going to see more discussions taking place amongst Eurozone finance ministers regarding perhaps an extension or perhaps a new bailout taking place on Wednesday, but we can pretty much say they're going to continue throughout this week, right up until that referendum that will be taking place on Sunday in Greece, where the Greek people will decide whether they want to go with the proposals that were put forward by the creditors, while the Greek side will be trying to see if they can get their own proposals accepted, which they put forward at the 11th hour on Tuesday. They requested 30 billion of extra bailout cash in order to cover loans that exist already over the next 2 years. Still plenty of legs left in this story, but as it stands at the moment, Greece and the rest of Europe wakes up on the 1st of July with Greece being in arrears to the International Monetary Fund and not having any bailout money, with no bailout on the horizon as it stands.
Well, the debt standoff has led to an unprecedented situation. Greece is now the first ever advanced economy to fall into arrears with the International Monetary Fund. It pushes Athens closer to a default on its entire €320 billion debt burden, which would be the biggest sovereign default in history. By missing the deadline, the EU member joins nations such as Zimbabwe, Sudan and Somalia that are behind on their payments to the IMF. The pressure on Greece mounted in the final few hours before the IMF deadline. German Chancellor Angela Merkel ruled out talks with Greece until Sunday's referendum, while her right-hand man said Greece should pull the plug on the vote in order to move forward.
The best option would be for Mr. Tsipras to cancel the referendum. One could then get together very quickly for talks.